If you want to bring joy back into your motherhood, you're going to have to get really good at doing what most mothers won't do. And that's showing up consistently, even when you don't feel like it. The joy of motherhood doesn't just fall apart because of big crises. It unravels in the small, ordinary refusals of daily discipline. When we sleep instead of getting up to spend time in the Word, or when we numb out on our phones instead of engaging with our children, when we drift through the day instead of disciplining ourselves in what actually will nourish our minds and bodies. That's the real thief of joy in motherhood. Not your circumstances, not your husband, not even your children, but your own inconsistency. And that's why today we're talking about the daily disciplines that bring joy back to motherhood. Because I can tell you this, joy doesn't just return by accident. It returns when you choose the habits that breathe life into your soul and your home, even when you don't feel like it. So today I want to start by giving you the 3 foundational pieces that lay the groundwork for everything else that I'll say in this video. These are the prerequisites that make the daily disciplines actually work. And once we have these 3 foundational pieces in place, then I'll walk you through the specific daily disciplines that will bring joy back into your motherhood, even on the hardest days. So if you are a Christian mother and you're feeling burnt out and longing to be the peaceful mother and wife you've always imagined without turning to expensive therapy or supplements or constantly decluttering your home, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. And if you're new here, I'm Curie, and I help Christian homemakers who are living in a fog of exhaustion and stress to become the patient, peaceful mother and wife that you've always dreamt of being. And if you're wondering how I went from just barely surviving each day to creating a peaceful, joyful home, even when my circumstances didn't change, I actually walk you through the exact process I followed in my free workshop. So you can sign up using the link below. It's the first link in the description. All right, now let me set the scene here. I am a mother of 3, all who are 4 and under. I wake up at 4 a.m., I work out, I read my Bible, I pour into this YouTube channel, and I coach hundreds of women every single week on how they can joyfully serve their homes. That may sound shocking, especially if you're barely surviving right now, but here's the truth. It isn't because I'm superhuman. I'm actually not that special. I've just trained myself to do the hard thing even when I don't feel like it. And then when life gets really crazy, I've built systems and rhythms that carry me through the storm so that life doesn't just completely unravel before my eyes. Because here's the thing, there are seasons when you feel on top of the world and your energy is high and you feel motivated and you look and feel your best. But then there's also seasons of funk, postpartum, hormonal dips, low motivation just for who knows why. And if you don't have systems, you will crumble in those seasons. Ecclesiastes 3:1 reminds us, for everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. So if you don't have systems of discipline, you'll crumble in those tougher seasons. But if you do, you'll find that peace is not dependent on how you feel. All right, so the first foundation for your daily disciplines is to develop a rhythm of rest. So I'm starting off with rest because we don't have an infinite supply of discipline. And I know that in my intro, I made it sound like, you just have to go, go, go. And that is not at all that's not at all how we operate as humans. So even Jesus, during his ministry on earth, would withdraw to desolate places and pray, as it says in Luke 5:16. So if Christ himself modeled rhythms of work and rest, so must we. So I build rest into every layer of my life, monthly, weekly, and daily. And it's a frequent reminder that rest is a gift from the Lord. Every month I have one rest week. Seriously, like a whole rest week. I don't do heavy projects. I don't do any filming. I don't do any major work on this channel. I don't do any big homemaking projects. I just do small catch-up tasks, just like kind of fun, creative work. And then my husband and I go on a really long date. So it's like a Sabbath for my body and my mind so that I can return to my work refreshed and so that I don't burn out. I structure my week similarly with 3 days of grind, then 2 to 3 buffer days where I am still working, but not quite as hard as my grind days. And then I have 1 to 2 rest days. So I even build rest into each day, even my grind days. I rest and I build in rest. Okay. So I wake up really early so that I can feed my soul with God's word and exercise my body before I jump into the day serving my family. And I know it sounds counterintuitive that my rest involves waking up at 4 in the morning. But Psalm 63:1 says, "O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you, as in a dry and weary land where there is no water." And this is how I feel when I don't get to spend time in the Word. We were made to be in close connection with the Father. And when I'm not in the Word, I can feel it and everything is affected. So I make it a point to be disciplined enough to wake up early, even if that means 4 a.m., so that I can be in the Word. By the way, I have a whole video on my morning routine and how I'm able to wake up at 4 a.m. as a mom to 3 little ones who has a baby who's still waking up in the middle of the night. And by the way, even as I shoot this video, he's still waking up in the middle of the night, but that's okay. So when we weave rest into our rhythm, daily disciplines that I'm going to get into later, those become sustainable. But even with rest, there are seasons where life feels like it's spinning out of our control. I'm thinking like postpartum nights, illnesses, or just weeks where exhaustion hits so hard. And that's when I rely on something my husband and I jokingly call the baseline protocol. It's a simple, intentional system that keeps our home running even when I can barely keep myself together. This is a concept from my course, and it's a homemaking productivity system where you identify the non-negotiable tasks that keep your household running at its minimum functional level, and then it builds in simplified versions of even those tasks for high stress or high demand seasons like postpartum or illness or, just busy schedules, holidays, things like that. So think of this as the foundation of your home. It's the things that, if left undone, would cause chaos really quickly. So the goal isn't to maintain, in these seasons, a Pinterest perfect home. I mean, is that ever the goal? No. But to keep the home stable and peaceful and livable, even when life feels overwhelming. So here is the biblical truth behind it. 1 Corinthians 14:40 tells us, "But all things should be done decently and in order." Order in the home reflects the God of order. Even in survival seasons, discipline and foresight protect your family from spiraling into chaos. So here is how you can create your own baseline protocol. Step 1 is identify your baseline tasks. Ask yourself, what are the few things that, if neglected, make my home spiral and fast? Most of us share the same culprits. Think dishes, because you can't cook or eat if they pile up, right? Laundry, because everyone needs clean clothes. Meals, because your family needs to eat 3 times a day. Trash, because, it stinks and it'll clutter up your house if it gets neglected. Tidying shared spaces, because the atmosphere of your home sets the tone for everybody. All right, then step 2 is to build in simplifications for stressful seasons. Here's where the protocol comes in. You create pre-planned shortcuts for when life gets hectic so that you don't waste energy making decisions in the moment. So, for example, dishes. Instead of letting a ton of dishes pile up, because it is something that you have to do, when you can, use paper plates or plastic cups and utensils during postpartum seasons and busy weeks and when you're in your baseline protocol. Laundry. Limit the wardrobe of everyone in your house to just easy to wash staples, or keep a backup stash of essentials like extra underwear, pajamas, baby sleepers, things like that. Meals, you can make those super easy. Stock the freezer with reheatable meals. I know, but for a season, it's what you have to do. Buy rotisserie chickens or keep a list of, 5 to 10 go-to 15-minute dinners. I actually have a 15-minute meal plan with over 50 15-minute meal ideas in the link below. And they're not just like, super basic meal ideas. Like, I actually put some intentional thought and effort into curating this. So you can use the link below for that. But pre-chopped salad kits are great. I love taking a pre-chopped salad kit, like those Taylor Farms ones, and doctoring them up with all kinds of things. Paper bowls for cereal. Like cereal and hard-boiled eggs. That's a good one. Snack boards for dinner. There's so many different ideas, but to make even mealtime easy. Trash. You can double up trash bags so that when you pull one out, the next one's already ready for you. Tidying up, keeping a 5-minute reset basket in each room so that you can just scoop things into the basket really quickly. Yeah. So step 3 is to use the baseline protocol like a switch. When life is calm, you function above baseline. Cooking full meals, maybe putting a little more effort into them, folding laundry. Oh, that's another thing for laundry is if you're in baseline protocol, laundry doesn't need to be folded. At least not all laundry. My husband, he wears dress clothes to work though. So like there are certain things that you have to keep nice and ironed and things like that. So anyway, I digress. But yeah, you can do deeper cleaning and things like that during when you're operating above your baseline protocol. But then when life is stressful, you flip the switch into baseline protocol and you do the simplest version of your non-negotiables. So this way, your home never fully spirals, even when you're in survival mode. So the baseline protocol is how you remain faithful in small things, as it says in Luke 16:10. When you don't have the energy for big things, you can still keep your house in order when you don't have the energy for the bigger things. That's it. It's not Pinterest perfect. It's not glamorous, but it keeps the home from collapsing. Proverbs 31:27 says of the godly wife, she looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. The baseline protocol is how I live that out when I don't have extra energy for anything beyond survival. It keeps me from drifting into idleness and it protects my family from chaos. Joy in motherhood is not about doing everything. It's about doing the right few things consistently, especially when life feels chaotic. The third foundational principle for bringing joy back to your motherhood is matching your work to your energy level. Keep in mind that as women, we have natural cycles that significantly impact our motivation, our focus, and our energy. And there are days when your brain feels sharp. Like you don't have that brain fog, you're just feeling on top of your game. Your body feels strong and you're ready to tackle anything. And then there are days where even getting dressed feels momentous, like you're being required to run a marathon. And the key is to plan around your cycles instead of fighting them. So on your high energy days, schedule your most important tasks. Maybe homeschooling lessons, intensive cleaning, creative projects, or deep ministry with your family. And then on low energy days, focus on baseline protocol tasks, as we mentioned before. Remember that stewardship isn't about doing everything all the time. It's about doing what matters most when you can. So for those who are postpartum, pregnant, or otherwise not cycling, you know what I mean? Like your cycle, your energy patterns might feel unpredictable or flat or totally different. And that's normal. In those seasons, it's even more important to lean on baseline protocols and simplified routines. These small, consistent habits allow you to steward your household and also your health without burning out. So by aligning your work with your energy, whether you're naturally cycling or hormonally tapering back, you can create a rhythm that supports consistency, protects your joy, and honors God's call to care for your household. The truth is, though, is that discipline and order in motherhood aren't something that we were ever meant to do in isolation. We need rhythms and accountability and reminders of the sacredness of our work in the home. That's exactly why I created the THS Challenge Club. It's a place where we take on monthly homemaking challenges together. We build habits and cultivate joy in our ordinary lives. And each challenge is designed to help you see your home as the ministry that it truly is. So I would love for you to join us inside the THS Challenge Club. This month, we are doing the stress-free fall homemaking challenge. And I'm sharing all my best tips on managing the home intentionally and joyfully. So you can use the link below to join us for that. All right, so here are the daily disciplines. These are the habits that will help you to bring joy back into your motherhood. Your daily disciplines as a mother. 1, wake up early. Proverbs 31:15 says, she rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household. So waking up early doesn't mean that you have to wake up at 4 a.m. like I do, but I think that if you prioritize waking up at least 30 minutes before your children so that you can spend time with the Lord, you will find so much more joy in your motherhood. And I know because, I did make that video, my 4 a.m., I wake up at 4 a.m. video. I got all kinds, I'm talking hundreds of comments of people, women talking about why that's not doable for them. If it's not doable for you, it's not doable for you in this season. That's fine. But maybe think of ways that you can make it doable. How can you restructure your day? How can you change up how your children sleep or where they sleep or whatever to make it doable for you? Just maybe get creative. Next is the next daily discipline is to find motivators and community. So Hebrews 10:24 says, and let us consider how to stir one another up to love and good works. Consistency dies in isolation. Challenges, accountability partners, habit trackers, they make discipline fun, almost like a game. And this is exactly why I created that THS Challenge Club, because consistency becomes joyful when you're doing it alongside other women who all have the same goal. But there are many ways to build this kind of support. So find and pray for a Titus 2 mentor to meet with regularly, or join or even start your own women's Bible study at your church, or connect with other moms who are in similar seasons for coffee or play dates or whatever. Community matters. As mothers, we were never meant to go it alone. And when we encourage and spur one another on, our discipline becomes actually sustainable and our joy multiplies and our homes become places of peace and flourishing. So the next daily discipline is to always look your best. 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20 reminds us, you are not your own, for you were bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. So this verse isn't just about health, it's about stewardship of your body. How we present to ourselves communicates to our family, our children, and even ourselves that we value the life God has given us. So looking your best doesn't mean, having a full face of makeup on every day. It means intentionally caring for yourself. And that can be as simple as just showering or washing your face first thing in the morning so that you feel fresh for the day, or wearing clothes that make you feel confident, even if it's just a cozy, well-kept sweatshirt. Keeping your hair neat and doing a quick brush through in your hair. This tells your family that you take your role seriously, and it tells your own brain the same thing. The effect is tangible. When you look well, you move well, you act well, and you feel well. And children respond to energy and posture as much as words. And a mother who carries herself with care radiates calm, authority, joy. So think of this as an act of worship in itself. Caring for your body honors the God who created it and sets the tone for your household. It's important, guys. So always look your best. And then the next daily discipline is to keep Jesus at the center always. Colossians 3:23 says, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for man or not for men. So every dish, every diaper, every homeschool lesson, every task, even the ones that feel mundane, is an opportunity to glorify God. This is the difference between chores that drain you and chores that will bless your family. When Jesus is at the center, cooking dinner becomes an act of love, not just a necessity, not just something you have to do. Folding laundry becomes a rhythm of intentional gratitude, not just a chore. Parenting becomes a ministry, not just a task. Centering Jesus in the little things guarantees that our labor is fruitful and that our homes are saturated with His presence. Practical ways that you can implement this into your daily rhythms are to begin each day with prayer with your family. So make sure that you're praying with your children. You can keep scripture visible at all times throughout your home and just saturate your mind with it by memorizing scripture. You can ask yourself, how can I point this situation back to Christ? Whether you are discipling your children or talking to your husband or anything else you're doing, ask yourself that question. How can I point this back to Christ? When Christ is at the center, your daily disciplines become acts of worship, and then joy will follow naturally. All right, the next daily discipline is to intentionally plan your days. 1 Corinthians 14:40, I said it before, but I'll say it again, says, but all things should be done decently and in order. God's character is orderly, and children, like adults, thrive in structure that mirrors that divine order. So chaos in the day breeds unnecessary frustration and fatigue and tension, but order breeds calm, clarity, and peace. Planning doesn't mean scheduling every minute of your day. It means knowing your top priorities for the day before the day even begins. So doing this the night before is key to consistency and discipline. So when you plan your day, you can also make sure that you're planning your high energy tasks during your best hours of the day, like we discussed before. And then Also, by doing this, you can ensure that you're blocking time for rest, like we mentioned before, and prayer and family connection. So if you think that these types of things will just happen naturally, you may be right, like 20% of the time. But if you want to be consistent with your connection with the Lord and your family, you need to plan for it just like you would anything else that's important to you. And then next is have a plan for meals and tidying up your house and homeschooling or any other recurring tasks that you have. Have a plan for when you're going to do them. When you plan your days with intention, you're working with God's rhythm instead of against it. You're creating a home environment where your children feel secure and nurtured and where joy isn't just dependent on your circumstances, but on faithful structure. Okay, the next daily discipline is to just have fun. Sometimes this means that you just have to embrace the chaos for what it is, a short season in life where things are going to be a little messy, a little hectic, and a little uncomfortable. But the wisest thing that you can do in these seasons is to accept it, embrace it, and understand that it's joyful chaos. We are parenting little blessings. We aren't raising perfectly obedient robots. What a drag would that be, you know? So trying to force that kind of perfection will only steal your joy and it'll leave you exhausted and it'll make even the sweetest moments feel burdensome. So instead, lean into the mess and the noise and the imperfection. Romanticize little moments like when the children are playing and dinner is in the oven and you get to enjoy a quiet moment. Because joy thrives not in control, but in noticing the little moments of joy that the Lord is blessing you with. So be silly with your kids, catch them off guard and start a dance party in the kitchen, build a blanket fort in the living room for bedtime story time. Let the kids help with dinner even if it makes a disastrous mess, and laugh through the chaos. Have a spontaneous picnic in the backyard, even if it's just peanut butter sandwiches on paper plates. Take a walk and let them splash in every puddle they find. Remember, joyful chaos. And then the next daily discipline is to find ways to make every day special. Motherhood can feel repetitive, even monotonous, if we let the ordinary slip into autopilot. But one of the most transformative daily disciplines is to intentionally make each day feel special. Not in an overwhelming way, but just through small, thoughtful touches that bring joy to your family and honor God in your home. This could look like creating little rhythms of little celebrations in ordinary life and daily joys, like trying a new recipe or craft with the kids, or making little traditions for every day, like special drink day on Fridays, or milkshake Mondays, or movie night Saturdays, or scheduling little adventures on a special day of the week for everyone to look forward to. You can plan themed meals too, or snacks like Taco Tuesday, Pizza Friday, Soupy Sunday. Whatever. Find reasons to celebrate life, like, half birthdays or first day of school or work accomplishments. Just celebrate those who you love and make them feel special. The principle here is really simple. Intentionally mark the ordinary moments with little acts of joy and delight and connection. Children and husbands notice, and over time, these small, purposeful practices will create a home that feels warm and alive and just deeply loving. As the Bible reminds us in Ecclesiastes 3:13, every man should eat and drink and take pleasure in all his toil. This is God's gift to man. It's about recognizing the gifts in our everyday tasks and using them to cultivate a home filled with joy and gratitude and God's presence on purpose. Motherhood doesn't require perfection. It requires consistency, and consistency comes from daily disciplines rooted in Christ, carried out with community, and sustained by rhythms of rest and joy. So this is exactly why I started the THS Challenge Club, because these disciplines aren't something we were meant to do alone. You can join us this month for the stress-free Fall Homemaking Challenge and start building rhythms that bring peace and joy back into your home. The link is below. And it's always such a joy to have you here. And if you'd like to learn more about how I wake up at 4 a.m. every day as a mother to 3 young children, you can watch this next video.